Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Kiev and Zelensky. He made lots of very interesting statements during the previous 12 hours. One thing is clear, Zelensky is ready for a third round of talks. Zelensky outlines agenda for war-ending talks proposed to Russia in Istanbul. Preparations for a potential meeting between the Ukrainian and Russian presidents will be among the topics discussed at the Istanbul negotiations scheduled for this week, the Ukrainian leader stated. I would like to point your attention and to tell you that, according to information we have, this round of talks is going to take place tomorrow on the 23rd of July of 2025 on the territory of Istanbul. We need more momentum in the negotiations to end the war. This is a complex process. We all understand that the truly effective talks can only happen at the leadership level. Currently, our representatives are preparing at least one more prisoner exchange with Russia, and National Security and Defense Council Secretary Rustam Umerov has proposed a new round of representative-level meetings in Turkey. For us, the agenda is clear: the return of prisoners, the return of children abducted by Russia, and preparations for a leaders' summit. So we see that Zelensky wants to see Putin and wants to have meeting and to talk with him face to face. So based on this statement, we can make a conclusion, and of course based on the pattern of Ukrainian behavior, we can make a conclusion that most likely this upcoming night, before the beginning of talks on the territory of Istanbul, the Ukrainians will make something special. Maybe this is going to be massive missile attack deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation with ballistic or cruise missiles of Western or Ukrainian production. Maybe the Ukrainians will attack the Crimean Bridge. Maybe the Ukrainians will carry out another special operation. At least when talking about the previous round of talks, this is exactly what the Ukrainians did before the beginning of those talks. Now let's continue and let's discuss the situation on the ground, and first let's talk about the Sumy direction, where the Russians and the Ukrainians continue their fightings for the settlement of Kendratovka. During the previous 24 hours we got additional batch of videos of how the Russians were bombing and attacking positions of the armed force of Ukraine on the territory of the settlement in different parts, in the southern one and in the northern part. At the same time we got several mappers, pro-Russian mappers, who adjusted their maps, showing that the southern part of the settlement of Kondratovka is still under complete Russian control. As for now, we're not going to change the map, we're going to keep this map as is, but once again I would like to remind you that most likely, and we believe that the village of Kondratovka was lost by the Russians, and currently the Ukrainians are trying to dig in deeper. At the same time, we continue receiving reports from the central and the eastern flanks of the Sumy Russian offensive operation, and very important video we got from the settlement of Varachina. This video was published by the Russian officials, and here we can see how two Russian soldiers raised the Russian flag and the sign of the unit that was responsible for the Battle of Varachina in the southern part of the settlement. So this is exactly the building where the Russians raised their flags. Based on this video, we adjusted the map in Varachina completely in Russian favor. So most likely today, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm this information, and the village of Varachina would fall in Russian hands completely. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Konstantinovka direction. During the previous 24 hours we had some changes on the ground. The most important are coming from the city of Chasov Yar. According to information we have, the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish complete control over this dense network of the fortifications on the way to the village of Maiskaya. So this information was provided by the neutral mappers, which means that most likely the Russians are going to continue their offensive operation with the purpose to improve their positions on the Ukrainian side of the Seversky Donetsk-Donbass Canal, and for these purposes the Russians need to finish the battles and to secure the villages of Marka, Maiskaya and Novomarkova. So most likely we're going to see some intensification of actions exactly in this area. As for the southern Konstantinovka direction, the main activities were taking place in the village of Yablunovka. Today we got additional changes on the ground published by neutral mappers. The neutral mappers reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians improved their positions in the central part of the settlement of Yablunovka, and by the beginning of the 22nd of July of 2025, the Russians secured almost the entire village. There are still some doubts about the eastern part of the settlement, but I would like to remind you that several very reliable pro-Russian resources reported that the village of Yablunovka has already fallen in Russian hands, and that currently the clashes are taking place for the next village in this area, for the settlement of Alexandra Kalinova. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the area of N32 road. The Russians continue their offensive, and today we have first videos that confirm that the battle for the settlement of Poltavka has begun. And this is the first video that was published that confirms the additional progress on the ground. So I would like to remind you that just several days ago, most of the mappers adjusted their maps in the area of the settlement of Popov Yar, and today we got first proofs and first geolocations that the Russians continue their offensive operation further, and currently the Russians control up to 20% of the settlement of Poltavka, and the Russians continue advancing further in the northern direction. The main purpose of the Russians is to outflank the Ukrainian positions in the area of the village by the name of Rusin Yar. So the Russians continue their offensive. Most likely during the next days we're going to receive more updates exactly from this area. As for the Pokrovsk agglomeration, the most important and interesting updates are coming exactly from this area. And first let's talk about the northeastern part of the agglomeration. During the previous 24 hours, we got additional changes on the ground. Several mappers reported that during the previous 12 hours, the Russians managed to improve their positions finally and significantly in the area of Fedorovka. The settlement was secured by the Russians by the morning of the 22nd of July. Furthermore, according to information we have, the Russians secured up to 5% of the settlement of Novaya Ekonomichna in the northern part. So first streets and first buildings were taken by the Russians. Now the Russians are trying to find a solution how to move further deep inside of the city of Novaya Ekonomichna from the north. They know that there is a barrier right in front of them, and we're talking about this mine, the mine of Komsomolska, the base of Ukrainian defense on the northeastern flank of the entire Pokrovsk agglomeration. And maybe the Ukrainians somehow managed to stabilize the situation in the northeastern part, or at least to slow down the Russian progress, but at the same time we see that most likely the southwestern flank of the Ukrainian defense of the Pokrovsk agglomeration has collapsed completely. I believe that you've seen the video that took place in the central part of the city of Pokrovsk, and that is why I would like to discuss this video with you in details. So many of you have already seen this video. This video was published by the Ukrainian sources, and in this video we can see how a vehicle of the armored forces of Ukraine were moving from the northeastern part in the southwestern part of the city of Pokrovsk, and during this movement, exactly in this moment, we can see the Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group began attacking and shooting this vehicle within a distance. So the vehicle was damaged. According to information we have and according to this video, a driver survived. A person to the right of the driver, so this one who's making this video, was wounded, and another soldier who was sitting behind was killed as a result of Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group attack. So now let's return back to this map and let's discuss how exactly this situation happened, and let's try to understand whether it's just a single moment or it's the real situation in this part of the city of Pokrovsk. So the Ukrainians once again were moving along Shevchenko Street. So this is the road where Ukrainians were moving, just one pickup and 3 soldiers inside. Somewhere at this point, Ukrainian vehicle was attacked by the Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group. The vehicle proceeded moving further in the southern direction, and then this vehicle turned to the left in the area of Zahisnikov of Ukraine Street, and then Ukrainian vehicle stopped exactly in this point, and Ukrainian soldiers left that vehicle. Once again, Ukrainians were moving in this area. In this point, they were attacked. And most likely due to the fact that Ukrainians turned to the Zahisnikov Ukraine Street in the left direction, this means that most likely the Russians were attacking Ukrainians from this street. And as you can see, the Russians were trying to hit a driver with the purpose to stop the vehicle and then to destroy the entire Ukrainian team. So, but Ukrainians managed to probably escape this ambush, and Ukrainians took their positions around this gas station. So this is the situation, and this situation means and confirms several things. First of all, the Ukrainians currently have no strong control over the southwestern part of this area. The second thing is that the Russians are able to send more and more sabotage and reconnaissance group deep inside of the territory of Pokrovsk, and the most important, the Russians at the current situation are able during the daylight, not during the night period of time, but during a daylight, to create ambushes for Ukrainians, and this is the most important piece of news. So based on this video, we have adjusted the map softly. We have added a contested area between the settlements of Zvirova, the settlement by the name of Lyantovich, the settlement of Troyanda, and the central part of the city of Pokrovsk along the Zahisnikov Ukraine Street. So let's compare the map between the dates. This is the situation on the ground by the end of the 21st of July of 2025, and I would like to remind you that yesterday we got this video where we can see how Russian soldier, probably of another sabotage and reconnaissance group, was heading towards the city of Pokrovsk without any resistance and without any counter fire from Ukrainian side. And today we adjusted the map based on the video with ambush with Ukrainians. Ukrainians are saying that currently they're trying to stabilize the situation. A few days ago, Russian forces exploited a critical shortage of infantry in one of the Ukrainian brigades, as well as inaccurate situation awareness on the ground, to infiltrate the city through the settlement of Zvirova. The situation had to be urgently stabilized by troops from 155th Naval Infantry Brigade and 68th Jaeger Brigade to prevent a full-blown disaster. But we need to understand that this article may be just a part of propaganda with the purpose to stabilize the situation on the ground and to show the Ukrainians who are currently in the city of Pokrovsk that everything is under complete control. I believe that currently there are very heavy clashes for the southwestern part, and I believe that we are going to receive more and more videos exactly from this area. This is a vital question for the Russians to establish control over this part of the city of Pokrovsk, because if the Russians are able to secure this territory, this let's say area we call it as a contested area, then most likely the Russians will continue offensive operation in the northern direction towards the main supply lines through the city of Pokrovsk itself, as so close as possible to the railways, and in the direction of the settlement of Grishina. Because the Russians, if they are able to secure the western part of the city of Pokrovsk completely like this is going to be obviously a cauldron without any chances for evacuation. Most likely the Russians will be very fast because they understand that it's time to finish this as soon as possible and to show this special operation of assault of the city of Pokrovsk. As for the South Donetsk direction and Dnipropetrovsk area, we have some changes on the ground that were published by neutral mappers, and according to them, we see that the Russians are moving further and further in the direction of the settlement of Novopavlovka. There are still too many kilometers to the villages, but obviously the Russians are moving. And now I would like to discuss with you another topic. We have already discussed this situation. We discussed this several videos of the type 2 or 3 days ago, and today we got additional videos. And these videos today are coming from two cities, the city of Zaporozhye, or the region of Zaporozhye, and the region of Dnipropetrovsk. So this is once again the video where the clouds of locusts. Currently, we see that this is not just the video, not just the way how to hype, not just the way to show something new. We need to understand that Ukrainians who are currently located on the area of Zaporozhye are they see something new. They haven't seen such things before. The clouds of locusts have already covered the entire Zaporozhye region. Obviously, this is a huge disaster, and obviously we understand that Ukrainians don't have enough of forces and power to probably protect these regions from this pollution. So clouds of locusts were flying several days ago just above the Zaporozhye region. For these purposes, let's once again increase the numbers of updates. So these are the first video we got several days ago, more precisely on the 19th of July. The clouds of locusts were just created but by the nature, and they were just flying only in the area of the city of Zaporozhye and towns around this area. And today, just probably 4 days later, 3 days later, according to information we have, the first clouds of locusts were discovered in the area of the city of Dnipro. So we see that this pollution is spreading all over the entire territory of Ukraine, and now these clouds of locusts are covering not just the Zaporozhye region, but also the Dnipro region. It took just 3 days for these clouds of locusts to cover this part of Ukraine. So this territory is already covered with locusts, and we see that they're moving further in the northern direction, which means that the next days we're going to expand this pollution further in the northwestern direction, and with this tempo and with this complete absence of any actions from the Ukrainian side, these clouds of locusts can reach Romania, Poland, and the European Union. That can lead to complete collapse of their agriculture as well. So this is the situation. We will follow this because obviously this is very interesting. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.